ended the last conversation on a topic that Mike Salk brought up, and that something that was missing from the Mariners clubhouse this year was the adult in the room, which goes to Charlie Furbush, not the adult in the room, but rather, I'm kidding.
You're saying he's the adult here?
He's a lefty
Some
reliever.
days.
Some days, yes. He changes diapers.
Does that make Bob the grandpa
he's
in the
good.
room?
See where it started? Just want you to take note.
And yet he looks younger than all of us. Yeah.
The Mariners found the adult, and it's I'll go ahead and say he was on my off-season list last year. Justin Turner was at the top of my list, and knowing that what your limitations were, his reputation, and he came in, and by darn it, he was exactly everything that I had heard about him. That's just one. I'm not going to say small. I think it was very significant, and we can get into that a little bit. Part of what I think it's safe to say there was a bit of a turnaround in the last 5-6 weeks. I'm not convinced it's because of reasons why I think some people would think, or that might seem the most obvious. I think there were a lot of things that were going on. But my question is what we saw with this team down the stretch, how real was that? How real did you think that was? How much can you take what you saw, what this club could do? And the big caveat, I know I'm letting you guys talk, but the thing that you have to point out was it was a different team than in the first half of the season.
It was different after they brought in Victor Robles.
And Randy Arozarena. And Justin Turner. And Luke Raley is all of a sudden playing a bunch. And by the way, they all hit well at T-Mobile Park. So I think you had the right guys. You didn't have them soon enough. You didn't have them playing enough in the first half. I think that's all part of it. Julio Rodriguez came off the IL, got healthy, and what do you know? In the time that he came back from the IL, the Mariners had the third or fourth best by WRC Plus outfield in baseball for that time. So I feel good about that. That, to me, I think is potentially real. I'm willing to roll the dice on Victor Robles. But the entire thing, what we saw, how real was that in terms of confidence in building right now towards next year and what you can take into next year? What are you buying, Mike?
It's a hard one, man. It's a really, really hard one. I'm not buying a lot of it, to be honest with you. I think what you just said is very accurate. Adding Randy Arozarena, adding Justin Turner, adding Victor Robles changed who this team was entirely from the first, let's call it 4 months and 2 months, just to keep it fairly, just for simple numbers. Those guys are better, right? I mean, like, Randy Arozarena is better. You took Mitch Garver entirely out of the lineup at that point and made him a backup catcher and started using a DM. Like, you became a different team. Mitch Haniger stopped playing. He had
26 at bats in the last month,
which were probably about 25 too many, to be honest. I mean, like he had a terrible year after the hot start that Bob mentioned, and the reality is he's probably cooked. Quite frankly, I think you might have honestly had an even better numbers offensively if you'd left somebody else at the shortstop spot instead of bringing JP back for the last couple of weeks. And I got some serious concerns about what JP looks like moving forward as well. So how real was it? I think some of the moves they made were real. Do I think that you're going to win in modern baseball by bunting all the time? No, I don't
think they bunted as much as you.
I felt like they bunted every
because
3
you hate
at bats.
bunts. You see 6 at bunts, and that was their bunting every time up. And like, let's be clear, one of those was not one that they called for.
Well, they were still bunting a lot more than they had beforehand.
Luke Raley was really good.
Luke Raley can bunt whenever he wants to.
They couldn't get on base. I had no problem with them. Manufacture runs.
Yeah, I don't want to see that.
Manufacture runs.
Yeah, I'm out. I don't want to see them manufacturing runs. I don't want to see them
there were
bunting.
too many wasted gems out there
Yeah,
from the starting rotation.
Raley,
do something to back those guys
Again,
up.
I don't
Victor
think they
Robles
were doing even
bunting
manufacturing
with a man on
very much.
first and nobody out. I'm like, okay, you moved a runner. How about hitting a home run, which he's perfectly capable of doing? Charlie, as a pitcher, you like when a guy bunts on you?
No.
Really?
Well, I mean,
like, yeah, thanks. I'll take the free out.
I only say that. You remind me of...
Because you had to go field it.
No, when Big Poppy bunt on me. He bunted on me in Fenway.
Oh, no.
We had the shift on. He bunted down the third baseline.
He didn't hit a home run off you.
No, it was almost like, oh, you got to bunt on me to get on base, buddy?
Yeah,
All right.
he didn't hit a home run off you. That's a pretty nice thing.
You didn't realize he was so fast going home
I
to
know.
first, right?
I met Seager at third, and I was like, wow, that just happened.
The bigger question is, how aggressive do they really want to be? Do they want to run around? Is that who they want to be? And if it is, then go do that. right? Go bring in the guys that are going to allow you to run around as much, because they were super aggressive. Whether I'm exaggerating the bunting or not, they tried to steal a lot more bases. They tried to put the game in motion more. They tried to take advantage of athleticism, partially because the team was more athletic than it had been at the beginning of the year. I do think that if that's what you want, go design your team that way. So I guess I'm always, I say this about just about everything. Tell me who you want to be, and that should dictate what you're going to do. We talk about it with the Seahawks. We talk about it with the Mariners. Talk about it in business. Tell me what you want your identity to be, and then you can go out and acquire the right players that fit that identity.
Okay, before we get to Charlie, I just want to throw in something here. So again, I didn't
want to go first on that one. That was a hard question. Why don't you make one of them go
Why
first?
don't you sit over there next time? It's a round table.
That was a really hard question.
Way. Okay, so the one thing that I want to throw in there, and now I'm like totally losing my train of thought. Thank you very much.
I was stalling until I came up with an answer.
We'll come back to you at the end if you have a rebuttal afterwards or a last 30 seconds. A couple of key things came through in the end of the year. Jerry Dipoto, it wasn't a press conference. It was a gathering of the media who were there at the time. And one of the things that he talked about was they needed to, very much better communicate the park, particularly in the first 2 months. And also maybe look at the players and how they fit in the park more than they have, that they're looking to bring in, rather than this player has the skill set. We like that skill set. Take it the next step. And, well, how does that fit into the park? Which kind of surprised me when he said that, because I would think that was something that you did, but perhaps they didn't. They're so enamored with, this guy's going to hit 40 home runs. He might strike out 200 times, but if he hits the 40 home runs, or, this player, and some of it is confined to what they can go get also. But that, when he talked about using the whole field, was the first time I kind of heard him talk about that as well. That, to me, represents a little bit of a style change. So I do think that was there. He also talked about, and this goes back to our hitting coach conversation in the last segment, he mentioned Edgar Martinez bringing a different approach with 2 strikes, and it's not just get your best swing off. Get your best swing off is a Jared DeHart phrase that you would hear all the time. For Edgar Martinez, apparently it was go early in the count, let's see if we can drive runs, even with two strikes, 2 different approaches. So to me, it seems like there is a little bit of shift in what they want to do and perhaps the kind of player that they want to bring in. I don't know that it's going to be the go-go Mariners. I think you're a little, to me, and it's a little bit more extreme than I think. I don't think they're just looking for guys that can go out there and steal, and they're going to play exclusively that style of baseball. I think they should utilize the players that they have more that can, and I don't think we always saw that because I think they were so concerned about the offense that they weren't getting. I think that had something to do with it. So that said, Charlie, what you saw at the end of the year, they're winning games. Their offensive numbers are coming up. I love how we're not talking about the pitching at all.
Because that's a given.
What's to talk about?
We'll get to that. What was real for you?
It was great to see, but 4 months too late. All right. I mean, you're going to turn it on with 2 months to go. I know there were some moves and changes that were made, but I'm kind of on Salk's team here. I don't know if I buy any of it, right? They historically have gone on runs before where they've been great for a couple months and have not done it over the course of a season. So it's easy to see the excitement and that they were great on WRC Plus the last 2 months. That's awesome. But who cares? We're looking at playoff baseball right now, and the Mariners aren't in it. So how
does that translate to next year, though? I mean, do you think they can take what they were doing into it? Because this year's done. No, they're not in the playoffs.
Right.
Quite honestly, that's not productive at this point.
That's the idea. But I would like to think that they're going to make more moves to improve on what they've already done. Mm-hmm. That's where I look at the team and they're not complete. They're not a complete team right now. I know the moves they made have been great, but even if you look at Rosarena, he did have a down year comparatively to his past season. Yes. So did the Rays know something we don't know? We hope to see that he has a
measurably
yes. Yeah, right. I hope it's not.
If history is any judge, yes.
Yeah, weirdly enough.
Let me look that up. Yes.
Yeah. So
possibly.
You got to look at it and say, okay, they're controllable, but where are we? Are these the players that are ultimately going to help bring the rest of the players up, right? I think the adult in the room is a necessary need. You need that. You need that player. And it's someone that's going to set the tone. So offensively, I don't buy it. I'd like to see some more moves. I think they'll take what they learned from this past few months, but you're going to run into a bunch of tough pitching next year. So it's going to come down to execution. So some new players, I think, that hit the ball a little bit more consistently is what they need.
You want me to spare you, Bob, from having to answer this impossible question? I'll bring up another one that'll drive you even crazier. Because as Charlie was talking, I just found myself thinking about your comment earlier about, the roster 2 years ago versus this past year. Mm-hmm. And one name that doesn't get mentioned there, and he fits in the adult in the room conversation and in the guys that left conversation, is Gino Suarez. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, they had a dude. Mm-hmm. So when I was saying that was a pretty good roster, I was looking at Gino coming off of whatever it was, 35, 40 home run year, and Teo and some of the other guys. And Gino was definitely one of the adults in the room who everybody loved and respected and all of that. You want to add one name to this Seattle roster in order to turn them into the team that I would love to be. Mm-hmm. There is one guy available this offseason as a free agent that is an adult, that is a veteran, that is a great player, that plays a position of need, and that's Alex Bregman. I knew this would kill you. I knew this would be too much for you.
So conflicted with that. Yeah.
Could you think of a better player for this roster? And they're not going to do it. And he's probably not going to get out of Houston. I would be shocked if he did. So this entire thing is an exercise in futility. It's a moot point. But that's what they should do. He would be.
They need that kind of player, whether it's him or somebody.
There aren't a lot of others out there right now.
No, they're not. And I would welcome him. I'd have to tell him everything I've said about him.
That would be rough. It would be an awkward conversation.
Bob. Hi,
Bob, and I've hated you for a long time. For no real reason.
Face punchable many times.
He's exactly what they could use.
Yeah, 100%.
He's a dog.
100%. Yeah.
He is a dog of a player. He's a really good hitter. He's a clutch dude. He's been in World Series.
Is he going to remain that guy?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Dreadful start.
I don't know. It's a good question.
So is this like a wishful list of who we wish we can get?
As I said, it's not going to happen.
Charlie's like, I want to play too.
Yeah, I mean,
I bring him up not because I think they can go get him, but because of.
Oh, they could if they wanted to.
I don't know if they could. I honestly don't think he's going to leave Houston. I don't think Houston will let him leave.
I think they'd drive up the price for the They would drive up the price.
Yeah, I think so. But I honestly don't believe he'll get out of Houston. I just don't see it. But in terms of style, in terms of what you should be looking to add, an infielder with that kind of experience, presence, etc. Mm-hmm. I don't know what could possibly fit this team better than that.
Yeah. Well, you need 3 infielders right now.
Yeah, you might.
You do. You don't have a second baseman. You don't have a first baseman. You don't have a third baseman. We'll see what happens with somebody Locklear coming up from the minors.
Have a little conversation about whether or not you have a shortstop.
Well, maybe he becomes your second baseman if there's a shortstop that's productive who's available. I don't know, but that goes back to, is this real? It's not. It's not until look, you had it for 6 weeks. It's a 6-month season. So, yeah, you change personnel a bit. I hope Robles is real. I loved the attitude, the edge, the energy he brought. I hope it's real, but it is such a small sample size. And there was so much of his resume prior to his arrival here that didn't line up with what we saw. I'm going, okay, is this fool's gold? Is it real? They gave him the extension by baseball dollars, not a big investment. But if he's real, that's a game changer to me. If he can be that guy through the entire season, for the most part, that's huge. They didn't have that.
So could you take up first base with Justin Turner? Be like, all right, first base is just going to be Justin Turner and Locklear as a platoon.
I don't love him defensively at first.
Rayleigh.
Or
Rayleigh, and let Rayleigh play first and outfield.
I don't like either of those guys defensively. I love Turner on the team. If that's how you have to get him on the team, okay. But if we're just talking about what does he bring defensively, I don't like Rayleigh there or Turner for that matter.
I don't like Rayleigh there either.
Yeah.
but does Turner give you like, okay, I'm willing to sacrifice that in order to get the adult the same way you did with Santana in that spot? And
Santana might win the Gold Glove this year. So
is that true?
Yes.
Crazy.
But you've got to find the answers at second and third.
Yeah.
And
you're not going to find both, I don't think. I think it's going to be one or the other. It's going to be very.
So you're already going into the season shorthanded. Then you're already, and that's. Are we assuming everybody's going to take that step forward?
I don't know if that's true. I mean,
JP Crawford's going to be the version of last season, not the one that just finished, but the one before.
I don't think you need to have every single position on your roster set going into the season. I am okay with allowing for guys to grow into those spots. Baseball is...
But those are two productive.
Well,
First and third are
here's
two
the
productive.
I didn't say you can leave
question here.
both of them.
Are you going to see Cole Young this year? In which
Yeah,
case,
maybe.
that spot's going to be a little half open.
Yeah, maybe.
Like you
I mean,
might have a
I guess what I'm
placeholder.
saying
I don't
is-
think you'll see him.
I just think baseball is variable enough that if you could get a third baseman, I'd be okay with Josh Rojas playing second base and maybe somebody else steps into it. If you could get a second baseman, am I okay with Rojas? Yeah, Rojas is a major league player, and you could get the good version of him. Like, this game is super, super variable, regardless of how we want to pretend we can predict it.
Mm-hmm.
Man, there are so many guys around the game who you're like, where the heck did this season come from that guy? You knew Jurickson Profar was going to be one of the best hitters in baseball this past year. If Jurickson Profar had been your left fielder last year, you would have been like, we need to upgrade left field. There's a major problem here.
Yeah.
He goes on and has one of the great years in all of baseball this
He
year.
was hanging out there forever.
That's right.
Before he got picked up.
That
But
is
you've got to address
incredibly common.
You got to get production out of first and third.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to get some production out of there, and you just didn't. You just
I'd
didn't
agree with
at
that.
either spot for whatever reason. It started with Ty France at first. It just didn't happen. Then you had kind of the rotation with when you got Turner there. You have Rayleigh
Well, there's
playing
production when they were there.
there. Yeah,
You didn't have the
you got it
defense,
from
but you
Rayleigh.
had the production.
Yeah.
You got it from Rayleigh.
You had it from Turner, too. You just didn't get the home runs.
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about. Somebody who can do damage. You got a third baseman who's got single-digit home runs.
Well, are we going to
You've gotta
go
get more
Mariners? I mean, do you need the home runs, or are we trying to maybe get away
Well,
from that a little
if you're
bit?
gonna make
Because the
a
strikeouts
commitment-
are probably coming, especially at first base. The strikeouts are
Yeah.
coming with the home run.
Well, if you're going to make that commitment
you're
to be the
Carlos
go-go
Santana.
Mariners, then
Then
that
you get
changes
walks.
it. So you need to make a
Or Freddie
decision.
Freeman, yeah.
We're this team
Freddie Freeman.
or we're this team, right? You've got to make a. Who are we? Are we a
Yeah,
team that manufactures
and as Shannon
runs?
has mentioned before, not every player on the team needs to fit that style.
Right.
You can be the go-go Mariners, but also have a first baseman who strikes out 1,000 times and hits a bunch of home runs. Like, those two things can exist in the same team.
Certainly.
But you probably aren't going to have that and a Jorge Polanco at second base and a Josh Rojas at third, two guys who aren't going to run around very much. You're going to look for players in those. And J.P. Crawford, who for whatever reason can't run at all. It's one of the great mysteries of the world that a guy who plays as athletic a shortstop as he does is as slow as he is on the bases.
Yeah.
It's truly shocking at times. You're like,
He's deceptively slow.
he is deceptively slow.
Yeah, because he's lean. He looks like he'd be fast. He's athletic
How
at
is
short.
it possibly
he's
that
not
slow?
fast.
What is so weird?
I think his helmet
Bob,
weighs too
explain
much.
it. Explain why that man is so slow.
I feel like there's going to be another race. I think, didn't you?
No,
do
I
something
won't be
out there?
racing. Yeah, I'm out on that.
There goes the other
Yeah, the
hamstring.
hammy
Okay,
is
that's
already
not happening.
That already
Okay,
says
too
no
many
on that.
injuries. Some quick ones. Jorge Polanco, you pick up the option.
Nope.
Nope.
I'm tempted,
No.
Nope.
I'm a hard no.
but I
Hard
wouldn't
no.
do it.
Okay.
I would not do it.
Okay.
I'm tempted, but I wouldn't do it.
Jerry's found value in other guys. You can go out and find another guy that's going to do as good, if not better, than what he is at that value.
That's not setting the bar very high.
No, that's true.
But, you know, that's.
Yeah.
that's
But
what
also,
they
would
do.
it surprise me if Jorge Polanco went somewhere else next year and had a good year? No. And it wouldn't surprise me if you brought him back and he had a good year. Like, he's not a bad hitter. He had a bad year.
He had a terrible year.
He was
He's
really
not
bad.
a good defensive player.
No, he's an awful
No,
defensive
that's
player, and I
where-
would not
yeah.
be able to watch him at second base every day again.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think if you want to be the go-go Mariners, I'd rather see Ryan Bliss. He's going to have his
Yeah.
own problems, but at least he'd balance them off with running and being aggressive and some of the stuff he could do. They're not going to do that either. But, yeah, I'm with you. No. It just took me a little longer
Coming
to
off
get
the
there.
knee surgery, I mean, okay, so he was hurt. And that's
Yeah,
why
he'll
he wasn't
have
like-
something else.
No, but he won't have a regular year, a regular off
He'll get hurt again.
He won't have the normal off season to get ready for.
Is
no,
he
I can't.
32 now?
Yeah.
So
And he's had a history of other leg problems
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, right.
And the defense, if the defense was there, I'd think about it. It's not.
We're done
So,
here.
he's not going to
yeah,
get
we're
more
done.
durable.
Who is the Mariners' best starter?
Ooh. It's Logan Gilbert.
How do you? Yeah, it's Logan.
It's Logan. But I'm telling you, when he's healthy, Brian Wu was special. He just was. When you look at the games, look at his ERA, look at what he was doing. I was blown away by him. I mean, I went into the season going, George Kirby is the king of command. This guy doesn't walk. He's got more starts in his career than he's got walks in his career. I mean, it's ridiculous. I thought he would be the best pitcher in the rotation. Turned out it's Logan. But Brian Wu caught my eye in a very big way when he became healthy and just watching what he was able to do.
The guy that surprised me the most, honestly, was Bryce Miller
Boom.
this year. The guy who just developed he just kept adding pitches throughout the years. Like, I'm going to throw a curveball. Hey, by the way, I'm going to do this. I'm going to just start throwing a split. Like, okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean you could just start throwing these pitches? Like, yeah, he did.
I thought he pitched like Logan. I thought he
does.
He
He's
pitches,
Logan. I'm not even going to say Logan light.
No.
He's like Logan a couple of years ago, and Logan is in awe of how he can pick up a baseball and just come up with another pitch.
He sure got some of that. I heard he learned the curveball from, remember Mike Baumann, who was here for just a little while?
Yeah,
And he's like, I'm going to throw Mike Baumann's curveball. They're like, no, you're not. He's like, watch me. And he did. And he threw it awesome. And they were like, okay, I guess you can like throw Mike Baumann's curveball now. Yeah. So
was it Logan?
It was Logan.
Or who do you think it was?
I mean, Logan, because All-Star, first time, it's fantastic. But I think the biggest leap forward was Bryce Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Like the idea that he pitches so aggressive, and I think that's what's like really the step forward is he's not afraid to continue to attack. That third time through the lineup, it's like great to see. So, and that's what's going to hopefully get him to that next level. I think I think he's like all-star caliber next year.
If you had asked me a year ago, all right, Mariners need to trade one pitcher, who should it be? I would have said Bryce Miller, because I just wasn't convinced he was going to get late enough into games often enough. I thought it was going to be not five and dive, but just like he just didn't have enough pitches to get himself deep into games. He showed me to be totally and completely wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So you asked me the same question this year? I think it's an easy answer. And if you are, I don't know that you're going to trade a pitcher. But to me, I look at it and say, Emerson Hancock is at a point where either you need to pitch him or move on from him. Like he's a major league pitcher.
But he doesn't bring back what any of the other.
So I'm probably not going to trade Emerson. I would consider putting him into the rotation, finding some pitching depth somewhere else, because you're going to need more than 5 pitchers at some point, and maybe Logan Evans is part of that, etc. And I would be looking to trade, if I was going to trade anyone, George Kirby. I think you'd get significant value back for him, and I'm not convinced that the upside is as high as the other 3 or 4 guys. So I know it's not like the perfect scenario, but if you could bring back something real legitimate for George Kirby, and I think you could, I'd be pretty tempted.
Charlie, I think
disagree.
you were okay.
I disagree.
Good.
I don't think you trade Kirby at all. I think he's way too consistent over the course of his career so far. He's been an innings eater. Mm-hmm. It's just been fantastic to watch. Some nights he goes out and blows it away. And, he gives it up every now and again, but he's above average, serviceable starting pitcher.
He's good.
Yeah.
I'm not trading him because I don't like him.
No,
Trust
I mean,
me.
the guy, I know you're probably not going to like it, but the guy I'm trading is Woo.
Why do you hate Brian Woo?
I don't
Injuries.
hate Woo. No, injuries it's all part of it. But he showed that he can pitch at this level and not get hurt. So assuming this was just a blip on the radar, getting your arm used to pitching at this level, pitching every 5 days and what it takes. But I think if you were rolling with those 4 starting pitchers and Woo wasn't in it, and you got a bat to replace him,
you bring Hancock into the rotation.
Yeah, you bring Hancock number 5.
You don't think you could do that with Kirby instead of Woo?
I think Kirby is a more valuable pitcher based on his experience and what he's proven than Woo is.
Doesn't Kirby bring back more than Woo does because of Woo's injury history? Because at the
Yeah,
end of the day,
but Woo's more controllable. Woo has more control
by 1 year.
Yeah, and that's the gold in these general managers' eyes. How long can I control them before I have to pay them?
I hate that we're even discussing that. I hate that we're even contemplating trading one of those starters.
No, I'm not trading any starter. Absolutely not.
Because if they do, it's
Somebody's
their
getting
fault.
hurt next year.
I am.
It's
and
their fault.
I hate to even say that, but you brought this up in the last episode. They have been remarkably healthy. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Mm-hmm. Kudos to them. There's big credit. That doesn't just happen. They've got great programs, and they all follow it, and they put a lot of research in.
But if you trade one, they're getting hurt. If you trade one of these pitchers, the other guys are definitely getting hurt.
Nobody has what they have had the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So the odds are somebody is getting hurt.
It's true.
Yeah.
And once you do that, then you're down to 3 guys, Hancock, and whatever you brought in. And by the way, I don't think you're going to be able to bring in, I don't think you're going to have enough money to bring in anything that would come close to replacing anybody that you're sending out, because you have to replace who you are sending out. You are too pitching dependent.
Yeah, but how close is Logan Evans to being that 6th option, not your 5th? I don't know either. But I didn't know Brian Woo and Bryce Miller were going to be that, and they turned into it real darn fast.
It took 2 years.
Yeah, but they were.
You don't have 2 years right now.
They were really serviceable as soon as they came up as back-end guys.
No, not at the end of the season.
As back-end guys?
Not at the end of the season.
Would you rather see a team more offensively productive throughout the year than a team that just dominates like pitching? I think that's what I see. I look at the teams built in the playoffs right now, they have 3 great starting pitchers, and then that's it. It's all you really need. You know, it's like, what are we going to do with 5 starting pitchers in the playoffs? You're going to put them in the bullpen. They're not even effective at this point. They've never pitched out of the bullpen. So,
you got to get to the postseason.
Well, obviously you got to get there, but I think we've realized
but again,
you need more runs.
I'm with Charlie because this is the thing that drives me crazy, whether we're talking about trading DK Metcalf, Felix Hernandez, whoever it is. People always say, why do you want to get rid of that player? Like, I don't want to get rid of them.
Yeah.
I want to get back what that player can bring me. And whether it's Kirby or Wu or whomever you think it is, you got to be getting back something really significant.
You have to win that trade.
Absolutely.
This isn't an even
Now,
trade. You have to win
this trade's not
going to
happen because Boston wouldn't trade him. But for an example, I asked my friend Alex Spear in Boston, who's for me, one of the best reporters in the game. And Shannon, I think you would vouch for that. Alex is brilliant.
Yes.
I said, hey, just if the Mariners were to offer George Kirby straight up to the Red Sox, what would he be worth? His answer was Jarren Duran. Straight up, 1-for-1 trade.
Not enough.
Huh? You're insane. The Red Sox say no to that in a heartbeat. There is no way the Red Sox say yes to that.
it's not enough. You don't need
I
his
would
value
make that deal
is in center field, and you're not going to put him.
I'm right there with you.
You wouldn't take me 1 second to say yes to that deal. Like, oh, really? Jarren Duran? Done. Where do I sign up?
I need a little more.
Go look at their
pitching
WAR
is at
from
such a
last year.
premium in this league.
I
think you're undervalued.
No,
Yes, look at ask the Dodgers.
Sure.
Hitting
Nobody
is at a
gives up
premium.
hitters.
Ask the
Nobody
Dodgers.
gives up
Hitting
hitters.
is at a premium, which is why the Red Sox wouldn't give him
Nobody gives
up.
up.
He was like
prime
an
hitters.
8.5 win player this year.
Yeah.
George
But you're
Kirby
not
was like a
going-
3-win player.
Where are you going to put him?
Who cares? You could trade Randy Arozarena. You can trade Victor
But you're
Robles.
You're not getting the value. His value is wrapped up in.
I thought the same thing, and we were talking about that. Now I'm getting fired up. But we were talking about that with Luis Robert. And then Passan was like, you know what?
That was a great.
And I didn't want to do that
that
either.
didn't work out.
But Passan was like, you know what? In this day and age, people are starting to think that the toll taken on a center fielder is so great that if you've got 2 of them, you can rotate those guys. And maybe Duran and Julio both take turns playing center field. And maybe you can use a Arozarena who's not a great outfielder at DH. Maybe, there's a lot of ways you can find ways. Get good players on your team.
How about you go get some bats and don't trade your pitching? There's that option. You can just spend money. You don't have to give up capital.
Okay, I like his option, actually. That would be the perfect example. Yeah, let's just go spend more money.
You got Alex Bregman.
Yeah.
Christian Walker, I guess. There's not a lot available.
Well, there might be people available that we're not hearing about either.
If you have the pitching, you don't have to have a superstar. I mean, you want good baseball players. You're just asking for good baseball players right now.
Somebody consistent.
Just shoot for the moon.
I don't know. I'm watching these teams in the postseason.
Players.
The ones that are winning tend to have a couple of superstars.
How much money is left on Nolan Arenado's contract?
Ooh, Nolan Arenado's so good.
Right?
Yeah.
See? I mean, there's an
He's
idea.
He's old, though.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, if you're going to
his dad in the clubhouse.
Yeah, that's true.
So
he might be acting as grandpa to bring it back around.
All right. I think this is the perfect place to wrap it up because we are starting to venture into the hot stove, and maybe we do this again.
Let's do it.
Sold.
In.
All right. Nap, show, golf.
Golf.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,